What did the Pope, Master Yoda, and RuPaul have in common? I'm not setting up a terrible joke, but these are three figures that most Americans would recognize, and they're all expressions of one of the most difficult to understand cards in the major arcana. Yes, today we're cracking open card 5, the Hierophant. Now, if you've ever looked at him and thought, ugh, it reminds me of a high school principal or some old school bureaucratic institution or the patriarchy or the man telling me what to do, let's just take a pause, because the Hierophant isn't giving you a bunch of rules to live by. He's showing you how to master the game so you can write your own rules. Now, let's take RuPaul as an example. Drag used to be this underground, counterculture, like taboo art form. But RuPaul took it, elevated it. He set the standard for the entire industry, and he established the rituals, the expectations, the path to success, and what it means to be a drag superstar. He's acting as the ultimate mentor and even gatekeeper for an entire generation of performers. Hierophant energy in full color. Now, at its core, this card is about the structures, traditions, and shared belief systems that take us from isolated individuals to a cohesive community. It's about the master teachers, the sacred lineages, and finding out where you truly belong. So today we're stripping away that dusty, stuffy reputation of this card. We're talking about structured wisdom, gatekeeping, and how to use the energy of this card to live your life at full volume. So grab your deck, maybe a journal, get comfortable, and let's dive into the Hierophant. Hello, I'm Allison, founder of See Yourself Coaching and Allison Knows It All. This is Tarot Club, where we put away the good girl persona and pursue our lives at full volume. In this series, we're studying the symbols and meanings of the tarot deck, one card at a time. If you've just found us, welcome. I will link the playlist here for you if you want to go back and watch from the beginning. Otherwise, let's get to it. So the Hierophant is card 5 in the major arcana. And before we get into how this card has any relevance in your life, let's set the foundation by looking at what is on the card. I'm using a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and if you're following along with your own deck at home, start to think about what you're seeing in this card. Take a look at the colors and symbols and try to put together a meaning or a story, what impressions or phrases might be coming up for you. If you're not using a Rider-Waite deck, also start to think about the differences and how that might change the meaning subtly. Let's start with the big guy in the middle. Actually, first I want to mention that there's actually a lot of 2s and 3s happening in this card. 2 plus 3 equals 5, which is the number of the Hierophant. So numerology, there you go. But yeah, so he's got 3 garments on, 3 different robes, red and blue and white. He's got 3 crosses down the front of his robe. He's got this crown that has 3 tiers, and his scepter has three pieces to it. So all of these 3s kind of point to the 3 realms that he touches. So it's the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Now, I know you know what those first 2 are, but the superconscious, think of it as, you might have heard the phrase, your higher self or your best self. It's that highest realm of your mind where just pure intuition and genius live. I wanted to talk about the crown for a second. It does have the 3 tiers, and this is a very familiar symbol to Catholics, at least of the time when this card was being designed back around the turn of the 19th century. It's called the papal tiara, or more officially a triregnum, which again means triple reign. Now at the top is very interesting. I've never noticed this until I started studying for this episode. You hear me say that almost every episode. I say that I find something that I've never noticed before. At the top of his crown, there are 3 little black things, and those, like, you might not think of it off the top of your head, but those are nails, and those are representing the nails that held Jesus to the cross when he was crucified. So I mentioned there's crosses down the center of his robe. There's also a cross on his footwear. And so this is, again, a symbol of him bringing divine knowledge into the physical realm. Every step he takes is governed by sacred law. And it's also a direct reference to the historic practice of believers kissing the Pope's foot. So they were kissing the symbol of Jesus, not the actual man. So they were kissing Jesus or the church or the symbol, not the actual person wearing the shoes. Now he's holding the scepter, his staff, in his left hand. Again, it's got the 3 pieces to it, referencing the triple reign: conscious, subconscious, superconscious. This staff, this scepter, is kind of showing us he is that channel or the go-between, receiving divine messages and passing them along to us here on earth. I've talked about this in previous episodes, where the left hand is the receptive or passive hand. So he's receiving the knowledge and then passing it along to us. He's a conduit or channel. Now his right hand, his active giving hand, he's using this, it's called the sign of the benediction. And in Christian iconography, the 3 upright fingers are the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You can also consider this as a throwback to the High Priestess card. Now, the High Priestess is the feminine counterpart to the Hierophant. In some decks, he might be called the Pope or the High Priest. Think of how some knowledge is available and open, you just have to go after it. And then some is hidden, you have to kind of go digging. Remember, she had the scroll on her lap that was partially covered up. So that's another way to interpret that symbol in his hand. It's also another reference to as above, so below, which we talked about back in the Magician episode 2, card 1. Now, what's interesting, well, there's a lot of interesting things about this card, but this is the first card that we've come across in the Major Arcana that has more than one character on it. Okay, so the Fool had the dog, but this is the first card that's got more than one human figure on it. It's got the 2 monks, acolytes, priests, ministers. There's so many names that we could call them. And the first thing that, again, I noticed as I started to study for this episode, I always kind of assumed they were identical. I never looked closely. They're actually both wearing different tunics. So the one on the left has red roses on his tunic, and that's a more earthbound, worldly, passionate energy to it. The other one, the one on the right, has white lilies, and that's a more innocent, passive, studious, focused energy. So these differences tell us that there's more than one path to mastery. We don't all have to do things exactly the same to end up with the same knowledge or to be in the same group. They're not at odds, they're balancing each other out. Now we've got to talk about the haircuts, okay? These are called tonsures, and they're not really a hairstyle so much as a ritual. And most of us recognize this style from depictions of monks, Christian monks in the Middle Ages, but it's actually a ritual that goes back to ancient Egyptians. So they shave down to the skin, the hair at the crown of the head, and this is a sign of devotion and giving up worldly pride and ego. You can no longer care about your appearance when your hair looks like this. And what is super interesting is that they're literally exposing the crown of their head so they can receive more divine knowledge and the teachings from the Hierophant. So looking at the scene we're in here, it's thinking back to the High Priestess. She had 2 columns as well. One was white and black, and she was sitting in the middle and was able to find, kind of an in-between space there. She learned how to live between those 2 opposing forces. She also had that curtain behind her where someone could walk up off the street and pull it back and peer behind it and gain access to the supernatural realm that way. This one has such different energy. It's like gray wall, gray columns, looks like it's made of stone, and you literally have to go through a Hierophant to get any knowledge. He's not about navigating wild, mystical, knowledge. It's about establishing order and structure and a single unchanging standard for everyone. Now, there are 2 keys at the Hierophant's feet, and these represent kind of what I was referencing before about there's the outer world that you can learn from books and courses in schools, and then there's the inner or hidden knowledge that you have to kind of pursue and also kind of gain along the way as you have experiences. And notice where they are. They're not in his hands. He's not holding them. They're not his. They're on the ground. They're on the floor at the base of his throne. which is telling us that this isn't his power. It's the power of the Pope. It's the power of the office and the structure that he's representing. So the element associated with this card is earth, and that's the physical world, solid foundations, institutions, traditions, and tangible things, money and assets and things we can put our hands on. And so it's bringing these abstract spiritual ideas down and putting them into concrete, real world systems that we can interface with and see and touch, so to speak, with churches or schools or governments. That would then associate the sign of Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign, which is very solid. And I just getting the picture of the Hierophant and his big stone throne and just very square and solid. But interestingly, it's ruled by Venus, which is obviously a very feminine energy. And as far as chakras, there's a couple, and so it's a little debatable about which would be applicable to the Hierophant. I would say the throat chakra, but the root, which is also associated with earth, would be another one to consider, and crown being the channel to God. But I like voice because he's teaching, he's imparting, and so that one makes the most sense to me. So if you're dealing with crystals and you want to relate it to the voice or the chakra aspect, you would use something blue like lapis lazuli, blue lace agate, something, whatever blue ones you can get your hands on, basically. Now, if you're wanting to go more of the Taurus earth element, something like emerald, malachite is a favorite of mine, or something like petrified wood, which I don't think is technically a crystal, but whatever. And then if you're wanting to go the more spiritual guidance connection, then selenite would be the one that I would recommend for that. Now for herbs, the religious tradition connection for me would be like frankincense and myrrh, very traditional church incense, herbs. For more earthly connection or even throat, I would do sage or thyme. And then back to the Venus might be patchouli or rosemary. I mentioned earlier briefly about the number 5. That's the number of the card. There's a lot of 2s and 3s, and 2 plus 3 equals 5. But what's interesting is that 5 is usually representing change or freedom or chaos. And that seems very counter to the Hierophant, right? Very traditional. We do things the same way every time. But this goes back to something else I mentioned earlier, is that he's using this energy to create freedom through structure. Like I said, you have to know the rules before you can know how to break them. Now you might be thinking, this is all well and good, but what the heck does it mean when I get this card in a reading? So let's talk about that. When this card appears, it's often asking, you're following this rule or set of rules in your life. Are you following this rule because it serves you and it's meaningful to you? Or is it something you were handed along the way and you just never questioned it? Not every structure you're in was built for you. Some you inherited or just kind of stumbled into. So the invitation of this card is to figure out whether the structures you're operating inside is holding you up or holding you back. Now that's different from rejecting all structure, that would be anarchy, but conscious choice, is this framework yours or did you inherit it? Based on the other cards in the reading and the questions being asked or answered, it could be in a more general sense about spiritual wisdom, religious beliefs, conformity, tradition. It could be about being a member of a group or part of an institution. Most of us enjoy being in a group surrounded by those that have similar beliefs and values, and finding these groups can be something like exploring a new church or religious group, or it could be like joining a gym or an online tarot community. In a yes or no reading, the Hierophant is kind of a qualified yes. He would say yes, but with a strong suggestion to follow traditional methods and paths. established ways of doing things or getting guidance from an expert, favoring the status quo, the way everyone has always done it. Now, if this card is reversed, there's two ways to look at this, I think. And one would be to point to blind rule following. This is the way we've always done it, and so this is just how I'm going to continue doing it. Rigid conformity to the rules. The other one is, like I said, rejection of all structure, going too far in the other direction. So basically, you're either stuck inside someone else's rules or you've burned the book and have no rules or foundation at all. I'd like to take a look at the Hierophant in some other decks. So this first one is the Modern Witch Tarot. This is my favorite deck for just kind of everyday pulls. I like it because it is very heavily based in Rider-Waite and modernized, updated for the modern folks. And I feel like this is a pretty solid update. It's got the gray pillars, the gray wall, the crossed keys, the hand gesture, the two acolytes. So I feel like this is a pretty faithful representation, just updated a little bit. And then I've got the Santa Muerte deck, and this one is less traditional. This one feels less about structure, more on tradition and lineage, and more focused on the Hierophant as a channel for divine messages. And I had to bring back Alice in Wonderland. This is her sister. I don't think her sister has a name in the movie, maybe in the original book, but this is a super unique take, which is why I bring up this deck frequently. This is Alice's sister, or maybe governess, trying to keep her focused on a history lesson. She values education, structure, tradition. As the eldest sister myself, I can absolutely relate to this. Like, why is Alice going off and doing this when she's supposed to be listening to her lessons? So I think that's a super interesting take to consider, and takes it definitely outside the religious connotation that this usually falls into. I talked about RuPaul at the top of this episode. He is a fascinating modern Hierophant because he took that underground counterculture art form and built a highly structured commercial empire around it. I mentioned Yoda. The Hierophant isn't just dealing with rules, but lineages. He's not teaching Luke just how to use a lightsaber. He's initiating him into this thousands of year old tradition, this Jedi order. He's a stickler for the code, the history, and the structure of the Force. Albus Dumbledore in Harry Potter, he sits at the head of a massive historic institution. He wears the robes, he tracks the lore, and he passes down structured knowledge to the next generation. He holds the keys and decides when you're ready for the deeper truth. So that's what the Hierophant looks like in our world. The question now is, where is he showing up in yours? And the hot take here isn't burn down the institution. It's know the difference between a rule that holds you up and one that holds you back, because you are already operating inside that framework. I mentioned this before. Your industry has a rule book. Your family handed you one. Even your idea of what a serious, credible, professional woman is supposed to look like, that's a framework too. The Hierophant isn't coming in and introducing rules into your life. He's highlighting them. He's making them visible. And once they're visible, you can have a choice to follow them or not. So which of these systems did you actually choose? Which ones did you just absorb? And that's the audit or inventory this card is asking for, not a rebellion. And before I go further, teachers matter, lineages matter, traditions. There are traditions worth honoring and mentors genuinely worth learning from. You're not meant to figure everything out alone. But at some point, the legitimate I have more to learn becomes a hiding place. You keep enrolling in the next thing and another credential. And as long as you're a student, you never have to be the one leading the room. And so then the outside voices pile on, because gatekeeping is no longer just a guy in robes deciding who gets in anymore. It's peer-to-peer now. It's that D-bag in your industry group on LinkedIn who implies you're not legit. It's the unspoken rules of every online community as to who's allowed to have an opinion, who's allowed to call themselves an expert. Oh, you're not a real entrepreneur if you haven't hit six figures, or you're not a real tarot reader if you have to Google something. You're not a real expert if you're still figuring it out. And if you spent any time on the internet trying to build something, you felt that. And then you internalized it. And now you don't even need the comment section anymore because you've brought that voice inside and it runs on a loop. The gatekeeper isn't even outside you anymore. He's inside doing the job for free. So who actually gets to decide when you're ready? You do. You have been in that classroom long enough. You already know enough to step into your own authority. There's no permission slip or invitation coming. You have to step into it yourself. And here's something that redeems this card for me, and that's community. So look at where we've been. The Fool jumped off the cliff alone. The Magician was standing at his table. He had his tools, but he was there alone. The High Priestess was between the two pillars, sitting alone. The Empress was out there building her empire, but she was doing it alone. The Emperor was alone. Every single card up to this point has been a solo job. And then the Hierophant comes in and says, okay, now go find your people. Not necessarily the people you defaulted into, the institution you were born into at birth, or the industry you kind of fell into after college, or just the community that was already there. But the full volume version of this card isn't obey the institution that you've always had. It's choose your church, your people, consciously and on your own terms. Because belonging matters. Being part of something bigger than yourself matters. Having a mentor, a tradition, a community that reflects your values back to you, not the ones that you just inherited and just never questioned. Because this is how knowledge is transmitted, teacher to student, generation to generation. The Hierophant is a bridge between you and something bigger than yourself. But what are you a part of, and did you choose it? So if this episode hit, if you felt something when I was talking about the frameworks you've been living inside, or that voice in your head that's telling you you're not ready yet, I want to talk to you. Full Volume is my 90-day one-on-one coaching container, coaching experience. And it's for women who know what they want, but they've spent so long worrying about what everyone else thinks that they've lost the thread back to their own voice. So we spend 90 days getting you out of your head, out of everyone else's framework, and into a version of yourself that makes decisions confidently and saying what you actually mean without apologizing for it. It's not a PDF or a digital course. It's you and me doing the work. And if you're ready to stop waiting for someone else to hand you the keys and start living at full volume, the link is in the description. I would love to work with you. And whether you're ready to jump into full volume or not, if you're still sitting with everything we've talked about, I've got 2 journal prompts for you to help you stay in this energy. So the first is to pick a rule that you've been living by, something about how you work or how you show up or what you're allowed to want. And ask yourself, where did this actually come from? Did you choose it, or have you just never questioned it? And second, think about the voice that tells you you're not ready yet, that you need more experience, or you need someone to sign off before you're allowed to do whatever it is. Whose voice is that actually? And when did you let them in and give them that job? I've also got some affirmations in the description to help you embody this energy, so go grab those too. Thank you so much for watching. I truly enjoyed unpacking the Hierophant with you. Next up is card 6, the Lovers, but it's not what you think. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until then, that's the tea from the tarot. Go out and live it.